Give me an account of the night of the coup in Kaduna.
Well, it's rather something like the longest day. We started this off on the night of the 13th of January when a night exercise was planned by the military college, which I command.
October 1st, 1960 to January 14, 1966, the Federation of Nigeria formally achieved its independence from Britain and joined the Commonwealth of Nations. On October 1st, 1960, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, founder of the Northern People's Congress (NPC), was appointed as Prime Minister, head of government for the Federation of Nigeria. Nnamdi Azikiwe, leader of the National Council of Nigeria and Cameroons (NCNC), was appointed as Governor General, representative of Queen Elizabeth II, the Nigerian head of state. On November 16, 1960, the Federal Republic of Nigeria was established on October 1, 1963, with Abubakar Tafawa Balewa as Prime Minister, head of government, and Nnamdi Azikiwe was President, head of state. President Nnamdi Azikiwe dissolved the House of Representatives on December 8, 1964. Parliamentary elections were held on December 30, 1964 and March 18, 1965, and the NPC won 162 seats out of 312 in the House of Representatives. The National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC) won 84 seats in the House of Representatives. The United Progress Grand Alliance (UPGA) boycotted the parliamentary elections, Regional elections were held on October 11, 1965. Chief Samuel Akintola of the Nigerian National Democratic Party (NNDP) was re-elected as Prime Minister of the Western Region on October 11, 1965. Some 160 civilians and several government policemen were killed in political violence in the Western Region following the regional elections. Some 20 individuals were killed in the political violence in Ilesha on January 12, 1966. January 15, 1966, July 5, 1967, Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was deposed and killed in a military coup led by Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogwu and Major Emmanuel Ifeajuna. On January 15, 1966, Prime Minister Samuel Akintola of the Western Region and Prime Minister Ahmadu Bello of the Northern Region were also deposed and killed during the military coup on January 15, 1966. The Supreme Military Council (SMC), headed by General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi, a member of the predominantly Christian Igbo ethnic group, took control of the government and suspended the Constitution on January 16, 1966. Patrick Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogwu, born on 26 February 1937 to 29 July 1967, was a Nigerian military officer who played a leading role in orchestrating the first military coup d'etat of January 15, 1966, which overthrew the first Nigerian republic. Kaduna recounts in his own words.
An account of the night of the coup in Kaduna.
Well, it's rather something like the longest day. We started this off on the night of the 13th of January when a night exercise was planned by the military college, which I command. We took our troops to the ground and taught them how to do night attacks. We didn't tell them what we were planning for, but at the end of the exercise, we took them out and showed them various places where they were to stand and just remain in their vehicle. Next day, we went out again for the same type of exercise, and at the end, we issued them with ammunition this time, live ammunition, and told them that they were going back to the same place as they went yesterday, but this time they were to get certain people.
And they were with you, were they?
Oh, of course they did. Oh, they all supported us.
Did the Sergeant himself attempt to fight?
Well, no. We didn't see him until the time we actually shot him. He ran away from his house when we fired the first few shots of anti-tank gun into the building. The whole roof was blown up and the place was set alight. Then we went to the rear of the house and started searching from room to room until we found him amongst the women and children, hiding himself. So we sort of took away the women and children and took him.
Now, what are your relations with General Ironsi in Lagos?
Well, very good. He's my boss. I have always been under him, and I still am under him. There isn't really any problem. A few misunderstandings arose, but this was due to the publication in the press and by announcements over the radio. At one time, they started calling us in Kaduna rebels, whereas in fact the revolution was all a planned affair all over the country, and many other people were killed.
The planning of the coup began with an inner circle of university-educated young officers who intended a national military revolution by seizing power in the regional capitals of Kaduna, Northern Region, and Ibadan, Western Region, and later taking control of Lagos, Federal Territory. Nzogwu was tasked with leading the revolution in the Northern Region, starting with the Operation Damisa on 15th January 1966, and at later stages, Operation Kura, Operation Zaki, and Operation Giwa, which would have culminated in the murder of the Northern establishment. Nzogwu had started his preparation by organizing a 2-day night exercise, Damisa, Operation Tiger, to train soldiers in new fighting techniques. The exercise was approved by authorities of the 1st Brigade headquarters, apparently unaware of the real intentions of Nzogwu, and the brigade major, Alfonso Keshi, has sent circulars to all units operating under the brigade to contribute troops towards the success of the exercise. By the time Major Keshi realized Operation Damisa was actually a military conspiracy, it was too late to counter the operation. In the early hours of 15 January 1966, Nzogwu led a group of soldiers on a supposed military exercise, taking them to attack the official residence of the Premier Sir Ahmadu Bello, Sardauna of Sokoto, in a bloody coup that saw the murder of the Premier of Northern and Western Nigeria. The Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, a Federal Minister Festus Okotebo, and top army officers from the northern and western regions of the nation were also brutally murdered. From the existing government, the Premier of the Eastern Region, Michael Okpara, the President of the Nigerian Federation, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and the Army Chief, Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi, were notable survivors. Nzogwu modus operandi in the north contributed in no small measure to the success of the coup in northern Nigeria. According to a Nigerian Police Special Branch report, Nzogwu executed at least 4 army and police security personnel, including one of the men on his team, Sergeant Daramola Oyegoke. Nzogwu also participated in the execution of Colonel Ralph Shodende, his superior officer at the Nigerian Military Training College, and is reported to have shot indiscriminately at fleeing women and children. After waiting for an early morning radio announcement from the Major Adewale Ademoyiga in Lagos, which did not take place because of the failure of the coup in Lagos, Major Nzogwu made an mid-afternoon announcement declaring martial law in northern Nigeria. Following the announcement from Kaduna and information that Nzogwu was gathering forces to attack Lagos, which was a huge possibility at the time, Commander of the Army, Major General Aguiyi-Ironsi, sent emissaries led by a man Major Nzogwu heavily respected, Lieutenant Colonel Conrad Nwawu, to Kaduna to negotiate peace talks with Major Nzogwu and a possible surrender. Major Nzogwu set conditions which General Ironsi agreed to. Aguiyi-Ironsi assumed power, and Nzogwu was later arrested in Lagos on 18 January 1966, contrary to agreements earlier reached between Nzogwu and Ironsi. He was held in Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison in Lagos before being transferred to Aba Prison in the Eastern Region, where he was released in March 1967 by Governor of the Eastern Region and future President of Biafra, Chukwuma. The 1966 Nigerian counter-coup, or the so-called July March, was the second of many military coups in Nigeria. It was masterminded by Lieutenant Colonel Murtala Muhammad and many northern military officers. The coup began as a mutiny at roughly midnight on July 28, 1966, and was a reaction to the killings of northern politicians and officers by some soldiers on January 15, 1966. The July Mutiny counter-coup resulted in the murder of Nigerian first military head of state, General Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi, and Lieutenant Colonel Adekunle Fajoyi, who was hosting a visiting Aguiyi-Ironsi in Ibadan by disgruntled northern non-commissioned officers. Upon the determination of Ironsi's government, Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon was appointed head of state by the July 1960 coup conspirators. According to historian Mark Solin, northern soldiers had a list of grievances following the aborted January 15, 1966 coup, which led to the planning of the counter-coup. A list of their grievances were the murder of northern civilians, leaders, and military officers in the aborted January 15, 1966 coup d'etat. The January 15, 1960 coup conspirators, mostly majors, had not been tried for treason and were being paid while in detention. The passage of the Unification Decree, rumors of an Igbo coup, the eliminate northern soldiers, the promotion of several Igbo majors to lieutenant colonel, rumors of General Aguiyi-Ironsi's ethnic favoritism towards Igbos, plans to swap the 1st and 4th battalions, and plans to rotate the military governors of the different regions. It is undeniable that the counter-coup by northern officers in 1966 was a reaction to the coup staged by mostly Igbo officers in January of the same year. Northern soldiers had been enraged by the murder of their two most senior politicians, Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa and Northern Regional Premier Ahmadu Bello, and four most senior soldiers, Brigadier Zakaria Mamalari, Colonel Coup Mohammed, Lieutenant Colonels Abogo Lagama, and James Pam, by Igbo officers in January. Despite the murders of the humble Balewa and the avuncular Bello, northern soldiers were more angry at the death of their respected senior officers who they had looked up to. Their anger increased when Satans jubilated when news of the coup spread. For months, they were subjected to incessant pressure to avenge the death of January by northern civilians, their wives, families, and junior officers. Additionally, there was a feeling that Igbos were getting too big for their boots. By mid-1966, there was an unwritten consensus among northern soldiers that there would be a July rematch with their Igbo colleagues. With their overwhelming numerical presence in the infantry, up to 75% of the army's riflemen were northerners. It was clear that a revenge coup by northern soldiers would have drastic consequences. The mainly northern Ibadan-based 4th Battalion was particularly angry and hot after losing its current Lieutenant Colonel Abogo Lagma and former Colonel Coup Mohammed, commanding officer during the January coup. Their anger increased when the Igbo deputy commander, Major Ezefile, took command of the battalion following Lagaman's death. The head of state, Major General Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi, was forced to replace his Ezefili with a northern chief officer, Major Joe Akaha, when the northern officers refused to take orders from Ezefili. The same scenario was played out in the Kano-based 5th Battalion, where the Kanuri Mohammed Shua was appointed to replace Major David Okafor. Despite these attempts by Ironsi to place them, northern soldiers were not happy, and many openly voiced their intention to get revenge for the killings of their northern brothers in arms in January. Even the newly promoted Lieutenant Colonel Murtala Muhammad was not placated. In an aggravated outburst in the presence of Igbo officers, the volatile and newly appointed Inspector of Signals referred to Ironsi as a fool. After eliminating Igbos from every position of influence in the army, northern soldiers now held sway at all levels in the army, with Igbo officers either murdered during the July March or dismissed after the Civil War. The northern soldiers could dictate the direction which the army and by extension Nigeria would take. Some northern soldiers now began to see the army as their personal property. Retired Major General David Ejo claimed that northern soldiers were unhappy with Gowon's choice of him as Chief of Staff. They instead preferred a northern soldier to occupy the post rather than Ejo, even if such a soldier was more junior than Ejo. Now firmly in control of the army, northern officers disputed senior military postings among themselves and created a northern military dynasty. Since the counter-coup, 17 officers have occupied the post of Chief of Army Staff. Of these 17, 15 have been northerners. The only two southerners to occupy the post during that time were Lieutenant Generals Ali Akirinade and Alexander Ogumudia, as they were appointed by General Obasanjo in 1979. The northern soldiers who carried out the counter-coup have constituted themselves into Nigeria's de facto ruling class. Of the soldiers who took part in the counter-coup, 4 of them later became head of state: Murtala, Buhari, Babangida, and Abacha. Several of them held prominent government and security positions throughout the last 3 decades. For example, Lieutenant Wabi, Duba, and Sheleng were among the party that murdered Major General Rossi and Lieutenant Colonel Ifeajuna. Wabi was rewarded by being appointed as Gowon's personal bodyguard, and today Duba and Sheleng are members of the Millionaire Generals Club, sitting atop massive fortunes and business empires, acquired after years of participation in military regimes. Mama Vasa was the minister of the Federal Capital Territory owned. He tried coup too many. Abba Kairi and Baba Osman served as military governors under Gowon for 8 years. Gado Nasko became a major general and was the minister of the Federal Capital Territory during the regime of Ibrahim Babangida. Some of the mutinous occupied prominent government positions. Lieutenant General Dajuma, who led the arrest party that abducted Rossi and Ifeajuna, was the defense secretary, and Major General Abdullahi Mohammed was the chief of staff at the presidency. The succession of military regimes in Nigeria were inevitably led by the northern soldiers who carried out the counter-coup. Their proficiency at and knowledge of coup plots is demonstrated by the fact that they managed to put down violent coup plots against them in 1975 and 1990. Evil sultans have learned and accepted that they cannot govern Nigeria without the cooperation of the North and its soldiers at then. The late Moshood Abiola first sought the blessings of senior Northern officers and the Sultan of Sokoto before contesting for and declaring himself President of Nigeria respectively.
Off and on until the military released the result of the June 12 election and put the democratically elected president, who is myself, in charge of affairs. I won't go to war. I won't encourage my supporters to go to war. I will fight for peace, and we will get peace. But see, we do not want the peace of a graveyard, a peace whereby somebody continues to ride on the rest of us with a gun.
Quite why a man who won an election should seek another's blessing before asserting himself the winner of the election. President Shehu Shagari asked for the blessings of Lieutenant General Alani Akinrade or the Oba of Benin before contesting for or declaring himself president following his electoral victory in 1979. The failure to bring any of the mutinous and murderers of late 1960s to book gave a platform for the numerous military coups of the following years. The 1966 counter-coup established that a successful coup plotter would never be called to account for his actions. Nigerians have paid the price for their failure to enforce discipline and for their acceptance of the law of the gun. The fact that men who murdered a head of state and their professional colleagues can occupy government positions is itself symbolic of the discipline in Nigerian society till today.